This conference will now be recorded.
All right, it's Monday, July 17th, 2023 at the Town Hall at 4058 County Road in Cottage Grove, Wisconsin. At 7 p.m. we have 3 public hearings. The first one is on the 2023-24 Class B liquor license for Warm Belly Noble LLC. Is there anyone wishing to comment? Questions? All right. Nothing.
You wanna, are you asking online?
Do you have anyone online that wishes?
Doesn't seem to be.
Okay. The next public hearing is on the proposed revisions to Chapter 11 of the Town Code of Ordinance, Public Nuisances regarding enforcement of noxious weeds. Anybody wishing to comment on noxious weeds?
You want to summarize what the purpose of the revisions are? You want me to?
You can.
Basically, it adds into the definition of noxious weeds that on residential parcels, if grass is over 6 inches or more, we can enforce and make them cut it. And it also adds a little bit of, you want to scroll down a little bit, into the enforcement side of things. It adds how we enforce it for both the weed commissioner and for the building inspector when it's enforced through the public property or the property maintenance ordinance. So it's just
And the number of days that they have to,
right. It's a little quicker turnaround because for grass and snow and things like that that are immediate problems, we don't give them a full 30 days to go to court to contest it like we would for other types of property maintenance issues.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just curious what brought that about.
Can we get your name and address for the records?
Absolutely. Demetria Van Straten, 4591 Lotus Lane.
What brought it on was we had a couple complaints and the amount of time that it took for us to get through the old ordinance, get enforcement. It was like the summer was gone then.
Usually these come about with these properties that get foreclosed on. And, you know, they're getting overgrown. The neighbors are upset because they feel it's affecting their property value. And then we had this long tedious process to go through, and this is trying
And
to.
some bank in California now owns it and they could care less what we tell them.
It makes us able to move a little faster while the grass is still growing. Yeah.
I guess I was just curious, because I actually right away thought of how long our grass got one time last summer. There was a medical situation in our house, hospitalizations, that whole thing. And we actually couldn't mow our lawn, and our lawn probably was at least 6 inches long.
We're not going out and measuring everybody's grass every day. It's more for a complaint situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neighbor or someone would have to complain to us generally first.
Oh, sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone online?
Yep. Alicia Roche is saying she can't hear us.
Oh,
I was afraid of that. Okay. That's not needed, right?
Nope. You're unmuted.
Let me start the computer. It's supposed to be, no, you can't. It's supposed to be LG.
technology.
Microphone, would it?
Nice one. It works.
Yeah, we
They
had to
can't hear it.
restart the computer. Every time we have to restart this computer. it doesn't work. No, it's not, it's the microphone, it's not the.
A couple of people have no issues.
Oh, seriously?
Okay, yeah, yep.
Maybe your-
So it must be her.
maybe your computer.
I have
Okay,
no issues.
okay, then we're okay.
You can hear us now?
It's only one person that couldn't hear. The rest are saying they can.
Okay. No more questions on public nuisance. Moving on then to proposed development project near the intersection of County Road N and US Highway 12 and 18. And if you can bring up that map,
That's the only one.
that's the map of what the town has in our comprehensive plan for future commercial development on the corner of N and 12 and 18 down along either side of North Star Road. And when we first, it currently does not have any services whatsoever. What buildings we have there are on private wells and private septic systems. When we had Ellers initially look at what we would need to have in there to make it pay to put in sewer at least to the property, came up with a figure as to what that development potential would have to be for us to be able to create a TID district and for the TID then to pay off the loan that they would take out for running sewer and water through that area. And just sewer, not water. But by having sewer there, instead of some of the buildings that we're currently having put up there, which are mostly pole buildings, there's not a lot of value in those. Others and our planner are both telling us that if we were able to offer sewer, you'd be able to get brick and mortar buildings that would have a higher value. And that's what we would need to help pay off the expense of running sewer there. So I'll let Mark continue from here.
I thought you were going to give my whole presentation.
No.
Because I was kind of hoping to see who's gonna call.
Sure. Thanks, Chris. I'm Mark Roffers. I've been the town's planner for about 10 years now. And I worked with the town board and the plan commission on the comprehensive plan that led us to think that this would be a good area for additional commercial and industrial development. And so the map you see up on screen right now is the whole town. This is the future land use map for the town, which indicates by the different colors recommendations for future land use. And so most of the town is colored green, that's ag preservation. Areas you see in gold are generally planned for residential development, and the areas in pink are planned for commercial development within the town. And this area that Chris mentioned is among those, and in fact, the largest area that we have planned for commercial development. There's a few buildings out there right now. It's right at the interchange. We've got large tracts of land in that area that are undeveloped. We've got very few houses in that area, which is good to avoid land use conflicts. And the area's got great transportation access, not just what you can see on the map, but you can get to I-39 awful quick down N. You can get to I-94 very quick up N, and to the rest of course, to the west. But it's also far enough from the city and village where the city and village don't have any influence. City of Madison Village, actually two villages, Village of Cottage Grove, Village of McFarland, don't have any influence over what goes on there. So it's always been viewed as an area that has a lot of assets, not a lot of liabilities for commercial development. So it's been identified for commercial use in the town plan for many years, if not decades. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is the one that Chris had up before. We zoomed into that northeast quadrant of the interchange. So you can see the Highway 12 and interchange on the left side of that map. And then you see the little circle on the bottom. That's where North Star Road comes in from Highway 12 right now to the north. And what Chris didn't mention is a few years ago now, the road needed improvement. The town improved that road and at that point in time, it was like, okay, what comes next? And one of the things that we wanted to do is create sort of a vision for how this area could develop. Not just how land right along North Star Road could develop or right along Highway N, but how could the two kind of be wedded together with, new roads to kind of link the whole area to get better value from the deeper parcels, not just stuff that already has access along the road. And to present a little bit of a vision on, how many buildings we could see out there and roughly where they might be located and where might be areas for mostly just inside stuff that were maybe higher visibility areas, and where conversely, where might be areas where outdoor storage and other things would be accepted because they would be, more or less invisible to the general public. So this was a general broad vision for how this area could develop. And as part of the comprehensive plan, there was a suggestion of, hey, if we could maybe establish what's called a tax incremental district out here, perhaps provide incentives for development, we could get a higher quality, and we could potentially, get more development out there that would create more tax base for the future. Part and parcel with that. And in order to create a tax increment district, the town would have to extend sewer to this area by state law. So then we started to look into, well, what happens if we bring sewer to this area? What kind of value could we get? So late last year, the town asked me to take a look at, answer the question, well, how much additional property value might we get from a business park, industrial park, where we had public sewer out there? And by the way, how much more would we get if we got public water out there, municipal water? So we took a look at those two questions, and I'll quickly put the water issue to the side. The expense of getting public water out there and the degree of intergovernmental cooperation that would be required was just determined to be too great to make it feasible. So we're not currently looking at public water. But when we looked at the value opportunities, we looked at some other developments in southern Wisconsin that had public sewer. There's a industrial development in Ixonia that has public sewer, but no water. There's one up in the town of Decorah near Lake Wisconsin that has public sewer, but no water. And we compared that to developments like this, or maybe Springfield Corners on the other side that doesn't have any utilities. And we determined that in southern Wisconsin, if you can get sewer and water to an area, you're looking at between 15 to 20%, greater value if you don't have sewer. Because if you think about it, then you don't have to provide a septic system. You don't have to have a drain field, which can occupy an acre or two of property. And so you can develop more densely. And you tend to attract a little bit higher value industry. You can get manufacturing, in that where you have sewer. Whereas if you have on private utilities, you're not usually getting a lot of, manufacturing. It's more cold storage, and the types of things that we're more seeing out here. So we made that determination that, hey, if we could get 20% more value. Oh, and another thing, when we looked at these other places, they tend to develop quicker when they have sewer than when they don't have sewer. So we looked at the pace and how much more value we might get, and the pace we might get to, and estimated a value. We got a 15-page report that does all this. And we could probably go to the next slide. I'm sorry, I should have gotten ahead of my skis a little bit. So this is just a slide that shows all the places we looked at, all the comparables that had no sewer or water, just sewer plus water. And I just circled the changes in value where from on the left side, the average value per acre without sewer, and then in the green, and if you go down to the red, it's about, I think it's about 17% greater. And then the pace of development where you add sewer to the mix, goes up from an average of, I think, 1.5 acres a year, 1.33 acres to about 2.5 acres. So about double the pace. These are based on these other places throughout southern Wisconsin. We can go to the next one. So we look not only at this area that's labeled A on this map. This is the 300 plus acres that is part of this plan that we've been cooking up for the last few years, but other potential areas found that the greatest potential value opportunity is in this area A, and it has some more assets and less liabilities than some of the other areas we looked at. But that's not to say that these other areas that are labeled with the different letters couldn't become additional development areas should the town extend sewer to this area, because the sewer would come from the west in the area, I can't even see what that's labeled G, where you see the light blue color on that map. So all those other areas get potentially opened up, especially around the interchange itself of 1218 and County N for future development if we open this up. Can you go to the next one? Okay, so this is just that area, that small area A. So we did this analysis. So I'm going to transition to my friend Joe from Ellers, financial advisor, here shortly. But our initial back of the envelope analysis said, hey, it's kind of a close call. If we just get the value per acre that we see in other areas with just sewer and no water, the cost of extending the sewer out there, it's going to be hard to pay that cost back with the development we'd expect within that area in red. If we're just looking at sort of typical values, where we just have sewer based on Ixonia and other examples that we found throughout the region. So it was really an additional development opportunity for an area on the west end near where Natfig comes in to Highway N, on the other side of the road, the east side of the road at that intersection, where we have a potential for significantly greater value than what we were assuming this area could develop. And that kind of turned the table a little bit on the feasibility of potentially extending sanitary sewer to this area and having the future development value, the property taxes from that value, pay the initial cost back for extending that sewer. So I think with that, I'm going to pause and maybe I don't know if I teed you up properly or not, Joe, but all right. I'm going to turn it over to Joe, and then we'd be both available for questions after that.
Sure.
Are you going to want us to display your report?
If you'd like. I'm sorry, we didn't coordinate that.
Yeah, I gotta find it.
As good as Mark was referencing this. Good evening. I'm Joe Murray from Ellers, proud to be the town's financial advisor. Mark talked through the potential and the planning that has been going on for years to try to get development out there at 12 and 18. The town then asked me, how could we make this happen? How can we pay for it? How can we do it? And as Mark mentioned, the biggest problem or cost is you need to run basically 3 miles of sewer to get to these sites in order to pay for it. So, and as Mark said, under state law, you cannot create a tax incremental district unless you have sewer service available to the district and the buildings that are going in there. But a tax increment district can pay for that 3 miles worth of extension of the sanitary sewer. And as Mark mentioned, water quickly came off the table, and it was really just a matter of what would it cost to get us sewer out to that site. Originally, the map that was just up there that showed areas A through G for the whole area was being considered. But it's too big. It's too big of an area and too many assumptions to try to provide service. We came back and recommended that the town focus on, if you want to do this, do area A. And I want to reemphasize, I am the town's financial advisor. I do not represent a developer. I am here to represent the town's best interest and give the town the best advice as to how to make it happen. I am not here proponent of any of this development or anything else. My job is to give the town the best advice possible. So when the town asked us to look at it, we considered two options. Option one would have been to create a tax increment district that would serve development for area A, the map basically that you just saw. Option two was to provide, what would it cost to provide the necessary sewer and other infrastructure for both area A that you just saw on the map, and B, if you remember a few slides ago, was kind of on the south side, to try to provide coverage to both of those areas. The town has been approached by a developer. Plan out, it's public. The town has been approached. Well, it's in my memo. But
Yeah, it's Houston Development has
Yes.
a public term sheet with us. That's all.
So Houston Development has come to the town and has proposed that they would be willing to build or be desired to build a $40 million facility in area A. They would like, if all things work out, they'd be willing to do it by the end of 2025. So we had those assumptions, and that development by Houston, they are proposing to be a $40 million facility. Which is a very large development, obviously, for the town. We also, as I said, looked at what would the development be and the cost for construction for the necessary infrastructure on area B, that added cost, and we ran the scenarios to see how would it work, could it work, and what would it mean for the town if it was going to happen. I covered all that. Yeah, the assumptions that we used for our cash flow analysis assumed that Houston was going to build that $40 million facility in 2024. And we looked at option two, if you were to do the area B on the south side, that's roughly 9.5 acres that would be developed per year based on Mark's projections at $232,000 an acre for that development. And that would generate an additional $2.2 million worth of value. Like I said, Houston's $40 million. That sounds close, but everything in area B is perspective. There's no developer that's knocking on the door for the town at this point. Thing that also to keep in mind is when you create a TID district, what that means is that the base values are locked in as to what they are at the date you create the TID, tax increment district. The underlying districts, the schools, the county, the technical college continue to collect their taxes at that base value for the entire life of the TID. They don't lose the value, they just don't get any of the additional value of the growth for the development until the time that the TID closes. So the school district and the county, the technical college would continue to get their payments as if there was nothing different today or in the future than it is today. Just to make sure everybody understands that. Based on Houston's $40 million, we had projected that the town would generate $9.4 million of incremental revenue to help pay for project costs. That is based on the town's current tax rate of $12.45. And that is not just the towns, that's the counties, the school districts, technical colleges, everybody. All those incremental revenues are collected by the town to pay towards the tax incremental district, and that totals right now $12.45. At Houston's development, that would generate, like I said, $9.4 million. Based on the projections we had for Area B, that would generate $84 million in total revenue of incremental value, which would generate roughly $14.7 million of incremental revenue going forward. Based on the estimates that we had, the cost, it's on the slide there, that is option.
I don't know what slide you want. You're gonna have to cue me in here. I don't know.
I'm sorry, can you go back to option 1, please?
You know what-
Just go up. Go up. a
Oh,
few
I am,
slides.
but I'm here. Let me.
That's option 2.
Joe, while you're doing that, when the Houstons are proposing to develop about 30 acres on the western part of Area A. And then the rest of Area A is about another 270 acres. So is option 1 to develop just the Houstons and option 2 to develop Houstons and the rest of Area A?
A and B, if I remember right.
I thought it was, I thought B was taken off the table pretty early.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm misremembering it. I thought this option 2 included B. Maybe
We can,
you could be right.
We can work through that,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can work through that.
Is this the right screen or
Yes,
do you want
please.
the one that's
Thank
got
you.
the?
No, that's good. I know it's hard to see, but for option A, to provide service in the infrastructure for the Houston development only, it was going to cost $4.1 million of project costs. That is the sanitary sewer. There were some street improvements associated with it to get it there to make that site better for development. Option 2 included, now that you say that, Mark, I believe you're right. It was the rest of option of
The
Area
rest of
A.
Area A.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
That's
So we at Ellers are recommending that the town undertake option 1 of trying to only provide development for the Houston site, since it's a fish on hand, if you will. They're nibbling and you have a chance to land them. The rest of Area A is speculative. We're ultimately going to recommend that the town start small and get the sewer to the site. If once it's there, everybody comes knocking in, you have more development, you can then look at what those actual developments are and then look to expanding the TID or adding additional project costs. The thing to keep in mind about a tax increment district is that it has a set life. It can only last for 20 years as an industrial development. TID is being proposed for this kind of development. So once the town board creates it, that 20-year clock starts. So if Houston is here and now and ready to go, but it's 5 years, 10 years down the road before the next developer comes knocking on the road, they've only got 10 years left of that TID increment life to generate increment to help pay for project costs. So our recommendation is to start with Area A, focus on the Houston site. When the next developer comes along, you look to either amend the boundaries or create a new district and start a new 20-year life. The shorter the life, you don't get as much revenue. But this is taking on the lion's share of getting the sewer to the site. The next developer who comes in, the sewer is going to be there. And it's not going to have to run 3 miles of sewer to get there. It's there. So that next developer hopefully will be close and soon. But at this point, it's all still speculative. So that's why we're recommending start small, get the sewer to the site, see what happens, and wait for the next developer to come along. In terms of the financing plan to make this happen, we are recommending that the town would issue something called the bond anticipation note. And what does that mean? That would mean that the town would issue debt and it would capitalize the interest for 3 years worth of payments. And you're probably sitting there saying, why are you going to pay interest on borrowing money, more money to pay for interest? Because if you don't, then the town would have to put that cost onto the taxpayers at large and spread it across the tax base as a whole. If you do it as a bond anticipation note, you borrow the extra interest to pay for 3 years. That allows the time for the development to happen, and it allows for the tax increment from that development to start being collected to make those payments, trying to avoid putting it onto the taxpayers at large. So what that would mean would be borrowing an extra roughly $650,000 anticipated interest. So you're borrowing more to buy time so that you're not putting it onto the taxpayers as a whole. Option 2 would mean if we did all of Area A and the additional project costs, the capitalized interest would go up to roughly $750,000. So again, we're trying to start small. Our recommendation is to start small, do what you need to get the utilities to the site, get that development, and see what happens before you undertake anything else. In terms of the financing plan, tried to present something conservative. As you all, I'm sure, are aware, interest rates have been in a state of flux for the last year. Waiting every month to see what the Federal Reserve announces. Are they going up? Are they holding? What are we going to do? We had projected a interest rate on that bond anticipation note of 4.5%. And then in 3 years, once the increment is coming in, and you know what that revenue stream is, we take it out long. We take it out for another 18 or 17 years to coincide with the life of the tax incremental district and based on the incremental revenue that is being generated. Again, all trying to protect putting it back onto the town taxpayers as a whole and making that development in the tax increment district pay those costs. So we had it projected that it would be taken out long and refunded in 2027. And again, we try to be conservative and put an interest rate at 5.75% at that time. These are all projections. Wrote this 2 months ago. Things have changed, but hopefully we're going to see the interest rate market level off and we'll adjust. If the town proceeds, if it does go forward with this, we would all look to readjust in 3 years when it comes back up for discussion. Based on the project cost, option 1 would be able to pay for $8.8 million worth of project costs. That includes the interest rates, the capitalized interest, those project costs to run the sewer to the site, and everything moving forward, as well as the refunding. We had projected, could you go maybe to the cash flow, go down 2 slides, please? Up 1, please. I don't know if anybody can see that. What you're looking at there is the cash flow analysis, assuming the town's tax rate remains the same, that the $40 million by the Houstons are built based on the cost of the bond anticipation note. On the first green columns you see, the second green columns are the projected refunding at the 5.75% to take it out long. And if you look on the far right in the orange, we project that the TID district could close in the year 2041, meaning that it will have enough revenue to pay for all of its cost by 2041. If you look below that, the very bottom number, up below 2 rows below the orange, you'll see it's got a projected surplus of $1.1 million. What that means is that there's some flexibility. If the values go down, tax rates change, project costs change, what have you, there's roughly $1 million of projected capacity, if you will, or wiggle room if something changes. So this one's got some capacity. When we looked at, if you could go to go down more slides. I think I'll just go to the cash flow for option 2. One more, please. One more. One more. I want to just get to the cash flow. This, what is up here, this is option 2 we looked at to show if to provide the infrastructure for the development of all that area A. And this one, as you see on the far right, there's a lot of red numbers. This one does not cash flow as well. It works. You see in the bottom orange box, it does have enough. We're projecting that it will have enough built up capacity, cumulative balance in there that it will work, but it goes the entire life of the TID. And the bottom number there is $600 and some odd $1,000. So this one takes more time. It is riskier based on how it takes longer time, based on how there's a smaller balance at the projected closure time. And if you see that red box, or I'm sorry, the yellow box, it shows a negative balance of roughly $25,000 right there. Yes, thank you. So what that would mean is if the TID is not generating enough revenue, and based on our projections, the town would have to come up with that cumulatively up to $725,000 to pay the bills, pay the debt service associated with it. That's a big number for the town. If you remember the last one, they were black numbers. We didn't run into a negative scenario. This poses more risk on doing the whole area a bigger risk for the town as well than just providing the service to the Houston property. So that is another reason why we recommend that the town tries to secure the Houston property at this point, see what happens, and then we'll re-examine and look to see if it's financially feasible and prudent to try to take on the rest of Area A. And I think I've covered all the main points, and I think Mark and I would be happy to answer any questions. There's a lot of small numbers up there, and sorry it's hard to read, but I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you have.
One question right away. So we probably wouldn't do any more with that area A there unless somebody probably guaranteed that they were going to come here and build. Is that what you're saying?
You can do that.
Wouldn't that be the way to do it though, or no? Or
that's my recommendation.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, that's my recommendation. Just as I said, as you look at the cash flow here's option 1, you see no red numbers. You see only one red number on the right-hand side. I think that's what, $7,500. It's a hiccup. You're waiting for the development to catch up, but after that, it's all positive numbers, and it's not that $750,000 hole that the town basically doesn't have sitting around in the bank to cover waiting for the money to catch up. That puts a lot more risk on the town if you were to do option 2 at this point. Like I said, option 1 gets you the utility, the sewer there. It allows for the future development for the rest of Area A at a much cheaper cost. And if you build it, they will come. It's just a matter of you've got one who wants to come now, you build it, you get them here, and you see what happens with the rest of it.
And you get nearly the full 20 years of revenue to pay back the costs.
Correct.
If we're instead waiting for a development to happen on North Star Road, for instance, the cost of extending sewer there is more because the sewer is going to go to County End to serve this Houston site, and then it would have to go further, of course, west to get, or east, thank you, to get to North Star Road. As Joe was suggesting, yeah, having a guarantee that someone's going to build something that would connect to that sewer would be important. But also knowing when it's going to happen would be important. So you have as much time to pay back the additional cost of extending the sewer that additional distance as you can.
Correct. So as I think I said earlier, if you create the TID now and for all of area A, as an example, and you have Houston build now, that 20-year clock starts. The next development is 10 years away. They only get 10 years worth of increment that they can recoup based on the 20-year life. You'd be better served by creating a new 20-year clock, that development, if you need to. Maybe it works within only 10, depending on what kind of development it is, what kind of cost you're looking at, but you'd be better off starting with Houston.
Start small. and-
Start small, and then the next development that comes along, let's look what the development is. We up these cash flow estimates and create a new TID if you need to, amend the existing TID if you need to, or can do it. But you're not starting that clock unnecessarily for a development you don't have nibbling at your feet.
And we know we have some small, at least a couple small developments along North Star Road that are nibbling a little bit. And so the question, becomes, is there enough interest there in development that would require sewer to get those developers interested enough to sign on the dotted line to say, yeah, we're going to cover at least a part of the cost to get it from County N over to North Star Road. And then you start to have a discussion on, either amending this first tax incremental district by expanding the boundary of the district to the east, or creating tax incremental district number 2 that would be directly adjacent to the first one to start a 20-year clock all over again.
Mhm.
The taxes, they're guaranteed on 40 million. That's correct, right?
No. That is entirely based on your development.
Developers agreement.
Which is-
The development agreement has the developer guaranteeing a value of $40 million.
Strong,
Yeah.
as the town attorney is working on writing this very strong protective development agreement for the town's interest. And I believe, yes, as he stated, it was to guarantee a $40 million value that they would build.
There's a question on the audience.
Joe Ellingson, North Star Road. So no water towers, no hydrants out there, right?
Not at this point, no.
So tell me why someone would put a $40 million project out there with a fire department that only has drafting capabilities in the town.
I'm not the developer, I can't
Has
speak.
anybody told them that you will not have water
Yes.
and the fire department will
Yeah.
volunteer?
Yes. I know that.
Then what- So has anybody told the fire department?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're all on board for it,
I'd love to be able to afford it. I can't.
afford.
Water tower. Town just can't afford that at this point.
Can we put it on the person who wants to put a $40 million thing out there?
The numbers don't work then for us.
I don't know how,
Or you require them to put their own water supply out there, which would be a water source.
They will.
They will.
They will.
They would
They have a
have to.
cistern, yeah, for their fire protection.
So like when the county built the shop out at AB,
Mhm.
they had to put the pressurized tank in
Okay.
there for their fire suppression system in their buildings.
So that answers my question.
Yeah, there's an added cost to them or anyone like them if they couldn't connect to a public water system, and they're aware of it.
So I'm a little confused on some of this. So I have development to the east, right? 35-acre development.
Yeah.
So how much value do I have to have before they'll run sewer there? They figured that out.
no, I don't know.
No, we haven't. Dwayne, we would be happy to talk to you about that
Okay.
and how we could make that work. We got it, we do have a cost for getting sewer to your area from where it would terminate to serve the Houston property.
Yeah.
And then it would just be a matter of a math question with, okay, so to pay, let's just say it's, I don't want to, I'm not going to put a number out there because I'm going to be wrong. You'd have to then have enough property value within, say, a 20-year period to pay back the principal and the interest for that initial investment. And then we could definitely start talking, and maybe even before we finish this conversation.
Yeah, we can run the numbers. It depends on what you're looking to do, when you're looking to do it, and what's the extra cost to get it there.
Yeah, Dwayne's done a division and gotten some rezoning for development along North Star Road to the east already. There's no increment there, but it is 30, you said 35 acres, Dwayne?
It was 35 acres, 24 acres of lots.
Yeah. So Dwayne, when I figured in, that comparable value from the other places, like, I assumed like a 20% bump in value from what we're seeing along North Star Road already. And that wasn't necessarily paying for the cost to get infrastructure that far east. So we can, we would just have to work with you to provide what is the magic number. And then, I suppose the expectation would be that the town would require you to hit that magic number in a development agreement.
If the town were to do that, that would change this from an industrial TID to a mixed use TID.
No, this is all industrial.
It's all.
Oh, it's industrial. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I heard lots.
It's all commercial.
No,
I'm sorry.
it's just
I
a
assumed I meant houses.
commercial division, no, 100%.
Okay.
In the back,
So this $40 million.
your name, please.
I'm Darren. This $40 million facility, what is it?
Pardon?
What is it? What kind of business is this going in?
I can't tell you. I don't know. I don't know if it's one business or 4 businesses or 8 businesses. But they're saying that they would have 80 or that $40 million value.
They would still have to go through all the town planning approvals and everything else eventually. It's just at this stage of the game, all we're really concerned about is will the tax assessment be high enough to justify the cost of running the sewer there? And at least initially, we're coming to the conclusion that yes, a $40 million facility will pay enough incremental tax to pay to run the sewer there. But what specific development they're going to put in there, other than the fact that it has to be assessed at least $40 million, that would go through the normal town planning process, just like any developer.
And in the front.
My name is Craig Slager. I'm the owner of Paul Davis Restoration and the buildings as well. We also have 4 acres adjacent to the Houston property. The rezoning, does the tax rate go up, the mill rate for the property tax? So we'd be very interested in connecting to the sewer. My question is, if we do that, by connecting to, we're on a septic system now, by connecting to the sewer, does the tax rate go up? And number 2, we have 4 acres that we would be very interested in developing at the same time that Houston is developing. That's not $40 million, but it would be a small part of that because we need to expand ourselves. So
I guess I'm not an assessor, so I don't know if your value would increase, but you
I know the
would.
value will increase, but does the mill rate go up then too?
The mill rate,
From what it is today by the rezoning of commercial?
The town's mill rate is town-wide.
Okay.
Your assessment is generally based on the fair market value of your property. So if your property is connected to sewer,
Yes.
fair market value is going to go up. Odds are your assessed value will go up along that increase in value, fair market value.
But the rate at which you're taxed won't be different.
No, be the same.
Yes, okay. I
The
understand.
taxes will probably go up, but it's the
I understand.
other side of it.
Yep,
not
I
the
get it.
mill rate.
So I'm not sure how that plays into the planning process, but
We're taking notes. It's good to know. I mean, you're right next door to
yeah.
that.
So what you've got set aside for septic field now, if you hooked up to sewer, you'd be able to build on it.
Yeah, and we're in 20,000 feet now. We need to double our size, so it's either there or someplace else. And not sure, this notice that we got in the mail on Friday is now lit a fire, so to speak. So in terms of conceptualizing things and figuring out what the next step is for our operation, urgency is pretty critical for us. Which leads me to the main question is, are you gonna have the sewer out there in a month? Is that what the plan is?
The number of steps, so figuring out whether there's a financing tool to pay for it is the first step. If there's no money, there's no sewer.
What is the
But
projected timeline, assuming things?
Yeah, in addition to that, we have to work with the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District that has controls the sewer 3 miles away. We have to do, our engineers have to do a lot of design work to lay it out and get a final estimate and make, sure what the route is. We have to work with the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission and the Department of Natural Resources to authorize the area to have sewer in the first place. It's called an urban service area or a limited service area. And then all that has to be built. It's going to be 2 years, 2 to 3 years before that'll.
Hopefully not that.
Is 2 years
Town
realistic?
engineers here.
Yeah, right.
Go ahead.
I would say, yeah, to be safe, 2 to 3 years for that perspective, just because of, as Mark mentioned, there's a lot of steps to get there.
Is 2
a lot of-
realistic or not really?
What was that?
I would assume that 2 is realistic, 3 is on the long end, or is even 2 years even realistic?
It depends how fast other regulations move and how much those other regulations allow overlapping. So one regulation, like CARPC's reviewing it, same with DNR, and then same with setting up a sanitary sewer district. If they're all starting at the same place, yes, but if someone says, one of those regulations say, we're not gonna start ours until you get DNR approval, then we'll start ours at CARPC. And that kind of fluctuates that finish line.
So I think for your purposes, 2 years would be the absolute best case scenario. 3 years is the most probable scenario. If that helps.
It does.
And I guess I need to caveat my numbers because my numbers assumed that the sewer was going to be built next year. And that construction, Houston's development, my understanding was they were going to have it built by the end of 2025. And if we're they can't connect until obviously the sewer's out there. So it sounds like we need to bump these revenue projections out at least a year.
Maybe a year, but I mean, they can be building their building.
They
While
can
the
be
sewers
building the building,
being
yes.
built,
Correct.
and then they finish together and.
Correct.
Yeah.
But this assumption was they were going to build in 2024.
I thought you had completed in 2025, but maybe I was.
I'll double check it here.
Is there?
No,
any-
built, I'm sorry, you're right, built in 2025. Sorry.
So this is maybe a dumb question, but so let's say we don't get our TID formed and the building gets its first assessment, so it's half built and it's $20 million, but there's no TID yet. Is that a problem? And then there's only
Yes.
20 million because it's when it becomes a TID?
Yes.
We would absolutely not create
I think
that
so.
TID
Right.
after the key to this whole thing is suppressing the base.
The improvements have to not
Right.
start until there's a TID and it all goes in.
We
there.
want the absolute base to be
Zero.
agricultural.
Egg value.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting question. My gut tells me if it builds 20 million just during construction and the TID's created, you'd get the increment from that 20 million.
Well, no, but I mean, if they built it they got it half done before we were quick enough to get a TID.
Oh, no, yeah, then you'd lose that $20 million.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why, that's part of the reason the expectations, you'd create the TID beginning part of 2024 so that you could start the engineering and that entire process. Tell Houston, the plan is you're going to have utilities by the end of 2025, get going.
And there's ways to deal with that. As long as we create the TID by the end of September, the TID creation date is retroactive to that January 1. So, we can work with, we will absolutely ensure that TID is created prior to the construction. Yeah.
Okay. Another question I had was, do your cost figures figure in the cost of operating the sewer? So there's some cost that, I don't know who pays that, the town?
Well, that would
That
be,
is not TID eligible.
we would create a utility district,
Okay.
and then the
They'll get
rate
sewer bill
payers,
every quarter.
right,
Yes.
whoever's
It's all
connected
covered
to
by
the
that.
sewer would pay that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That is not a TID eligible expense. It would be
Yeah.
the utility expense.
Okay, so that's another thing we have to create then.
Right.
Right?
A utility
Yeah.
district or a sanitary district and a means to fund operating. Yep.
That'll precede the creation of the TID.
Yeah.
So how does that work? We bill whoever is on it? Is that what you're saying?
For the operating
Yep.
costs. yeah.
You get a bill just like you get an electrical bill,
Okay.
you know. You're paying.
Any questions from anyone online?
Another question.
Okay.
It's related to what the gentleman in the back was talking about in terms of fire suppression systems, and I'm not a developer, so I don't have any
Mhm.
experience with this, but I assume, Mark, maybe you do, or anybody up there, like, the engineering is there, or maybe you.
Nick's closer to me, that question than I am, so I'm gonna turn it to him.
The engineering is there to, we're talking about some major commercial development for these buildings to be able to properly sprinkler themselves.
Yeah, that would be state approval, so they have to submit plans to the state, and the state has their rules and regulations for some sort of sprinkler system with their own cistern or
But there's water in the
firewalls.
ground or something to bring it up to the surface to.
Yep, they'll slowly bring it up, and they'll have a bigger tank somewhere in their building, on top of their building, that they're slowly bringing it from the ground, and it's gonna store there. So then the demand, if a fire ever does occur, it's not trying to pull it all from the ground because that pipe's just not big enough. It's gonna be pulling it from our reserves, or they're gonna have to have firewalls every so often in their particular building to, if a fire does occur, it's isolated in one particular area and it reduces the likelihood of it expanding to the rest of the building. So that would go through the state approval process that will require that.
Yeah, any commercial building has to get approved by the state. I forget the department name now, it changes every few years, and I'm old.
Well, you said there are these commercial developments with sewer only, so I presume they're similar and that somehow they figured out how to generate the water necessary for a $40 million development. That's a big, it's gonna be 8 buildings, but still big building.
I'm surprised you don't have fire suppression in your building now.
We do not. So it
Wasn't big enough.
the buildings are, I don't know, 20 years old now, so I don't know if it was different back then or not, but.
Sure it was.
Any other questions? And no questions from anyone online?
All have got themselves muted, so nobody's getting any chance at us.
My point to this whole thing is, and I've been, I think the way that this has gone good with the Houstons. And it's now to the point that you just don't want the taxpayer to have to pay the bill. That's my concern. I think it's a great idea. As long as some of these things that even Kim brought up, that the taxpayer doesn't get screwed somewhere along the way in this. And the plan 2 there, or 1, makes a lot of sense. And it's probably wouldn't have even happened unless Houston sort of come forward with a plan. That woke me up a little bit. That's a lot of money that they're guaranteeing to spend out there, and that's what's really gonna start this whole thing even happening, so.
Yeah, if there's no other questions, is there a motion to close the public hearings?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Williams, second by Duplay to close the public hearings. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now we go to the regular town board meeting. And we have a quorum present. The meeting was posted at the town hall and on the website. I'll call that meeting to order and we'll stand for the flag pledge. If you haven't, please sign in before you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You have the minutes of the July 3rd meeting in your packet.
Second.
Motion by Williams, second by Duclay to approve the minutes for July 3rd as presented. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
We also have closed session minutes.
So, yeah.
Move approval and then we keep the meetings closed.
Second.
Motion by Duclay, second by Williams to approve the minutes as presented and keep them closed until the matter is resolved. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Finance report, approval of bills.
And approval of checks 36,458 through 36,488 be paid. We make EFT payments to a total of $12,660.19.
Motion by Duclay, is there a second? Second by Handers to approve checks 36,458 through 36,488 in the EFT payment of $12,660.19. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. You also have in your packet the unaudited cash and investment balance of $2,191,204.95 in the June building permit.
I'd move approval of the building permits as presented.
Second.
Motion by Anders, second by Duclay to approve the June building permits as presented. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Then you have the update from the July court doc.
They're busy,
Yes.
very busy.
Our next meeting is August 7th. You need to have your per diems in by August 3rd. Am I forgetting anything else? Okay. Next item is public concerns. Public's opportunity to speak to the town board about any subject that is not a specific agenda item. Anyone online? Okay, we'll move on to review June police activities. Good evening, Christina.
I'll, like usual, I'll keep it short and sweet. Real fast, just going over the stats. I know they should have been all covered in the email. As usual, most of our calls or calls for service are traffic related, traffic stops, also check properties. Like I said, most times don't be alarmed by the inflated check properties. A lot of them are vacation checks. I have also come to learn that a number of them are also related to traffic monitoring. Currently, Zilly pulls his traffic monitoring as a check property, and Jen pulls hers as traffic monitoring, and I don't pull them at all. I just do it. So that's a little bit inconsistent, we'll say. The next highest are usually like unintentional 911s. That's been basically countywide lately.
Yeah.
Ones have been calling like crazy. Safety hazards, which is on the entire gamut. Sometimes it's stuff on the side of the road, disabled vehicles, parking issues sometimes get coded as safety hazards as well. So if there's stuff in the roadway and we're responding to it, trees, maybe building materials, things like that, those are frequently safety hazards as well. After that, some assist citizens, and off the top of my head, I couldn't even go over all the things that fit into that. Sometimes it's phone calls, things like that. And after that, it's gonna be like safety hazards, EMS calls, things like that. I don't think I have any like big announcements that I can think of off the top of my head. As far as the speed boards, I think the Sandpiper one is still doing pretty good. We might still keep that up there a little bit longer, but I have kind of been going over the thought of possibly moving it to Vilas south of 12. The construction down there obviously has on 12 AB has obviously like displaced traffic in other areas. So people are becoming aware of more issues. We did recently have some more complaints on Vilas south of 12. Makes perfect sense to me. That's not surprising. So we've been sitting down there a little bit more, but the idea has crossed my mind, maybe move the little board down there, because then we could get more information, a little more stats. You know, obviously you hope for compliance that it makes a difference, but worst case scenario, we at least get more just concrete stats.
Right.
I don't think it would be a bad idea to consider. So I've been playing with that idea probably for the last week or so. Obviously, we're open to whatever you guys think. The two big boards, we have one on Gaston, one on Vilas Hope. The Gaston one, and I mean, I'm not some stats pro, so please don't quote me and don't hold it against me. But I don't, the spot that it's sitting right now, with the way the road goes, the way the sign sits, it's just not picking enough people up. So we'll either move it back the other direction or a different location. Because even looking at the statistics on here, it's saying that the average speed is like 15 miles an hour under the speed. No way. No way. So I think it's just, unless we can adjust like the radar that it picks things up, but I don't even know if we can do that. So we'll find a better spot.
Yeah.
Because I just don't believe that. Those numbers do.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah. So we'll play around, see if either we can adjust the radar or just move it to an entirely new spot, because I don't want to waste like a whole nother battery life.
Yeah.
So Dan, I'll probably be bugging you tomorrow.
Okay.
If you're free. I think. Again,
71 miles an hour and a 55 again?
None of those. There were some, well, not on that road now,
No.
because that thing's awful. There were some high ones on Sandpiper, they get a little high. And then Vilas Hope. I mean, I want to say off the top of my head, not looking at that, because I don't sit in the stats. I don't like numbers. I've seen like 40, 42 on Sandpiper. So I feel like that's pretty impressive considering the turns, the stop signs. So, like I said, I think that one on that road is very helpful. If we do move it to Vilas, maybe chuck it back up to Sandpiper at some point, because I've had people tell me that they feel it makes a difference. People who live in the area say they've noticed. Obviously, it doesn't fix everything. Obviously, there's still people who are they're not gonna follow it, hence the 40 miles an hour. But I have had a lot of people make comments. So we'll look into that tomorrow and I'll probably decide for sure. So if you guys have an opinion, email me tonight and let me know. But other than that, I think that's all I got for you folks today. Any questions, concerns that I can help you with? Wiley?
No,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah, and I'll still be around, well, obviously this month for this meeting.
Yes.
Stay tuned to find out about the next one. I'm not sure. So I'll let you guys know. And I'll give the typical, because I haven't been, the last meeting I know I didn't, and the meetings before that I wasn't here. So lock your doors, close your garages, take your garage door openers out of your cars at night. Just do the typical, I'm not saying we're like have some crazy criminal rush, but the typical like 9 PM routine. I like to get that out there so that we can make sure we prevent people from trying door handles and going through our cars, things like that. All right, I am out of your guys' hair. You all have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody mind if we skip down to item E and do the Eagle Scout project? No, he doesn't want to go home. Let's get him taken care of. So we have the email for the picnic tables. It's $150 for the supplies that are needed for that. And did you get benches?
$150. That's what I mean.
$450.
$450, okay.
$450.
There you go. Yeah, for the benches, he sent me the list of materials and I went through today and got 151 for the benches.
141?
131.
For how many?
With current prices for 4 benches.
For 4?
Yep. Actually, it wasn't too bad.
What's the number again?
131 for 4 benches.
Did you get the price for the 6 boards for
130.
first benches or?
Thank you.
For the
Sorry.
first benches we need.
131.
I sent you that earlier for the Leopold benches. It's gonna be 36-foot boards.
Yep, that was the 460
Alright.
for all the picnic tables.
Alright.
Yep. Yeah, so roughly about not quite $600 for everything. Around
Right.
$600.
581.
There you go.
That money was out of where? You're taking it out of the
Parks.
parks.
You ready to take all this challenge on? Yeah, I'm planning on getting it basically mostly done all in August. Because
In August, that would be good.
I move we approve a total of $585 that
Coming out of the parks budget.
coming out of the parks budget.
Motion by Duplay,
Second.
second by Williams to approve $585 coming out of the parks budget for the, was it 6 picnic tables?
Yep.
And 4 benches to be built under the Eagle Scout project. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
I'll let you know.
Good luck.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Get with Dan as to how soon you want the materials.
Yep.
How about taking some pictures while you're doing?
Oh, I'm planning on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And share them with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you. Next item is reevaluate police coverage hours. And there was a email in there with what our calls are in the times. And in talking to Jen, it really looks like if we change our hours from 7 to 3 and 3 to 11, because that from 11 to 1 doesn't get us much at night.
I'm fine
What
with
about
that.
part-time? Are we gonna, oh, did she leave already? Okay. No, she just walked out.
Oh,
Steve, do you want me to grab her? Do you want me to grab her?
do you want her?
Yeah, it just, go ahead, it just. Not necessarily Monday through Thursday, part-time kind of thing, just, I mean, half of the establishments in the village are closed on Monday nights, so. Again, I don't know, again, it's 2:00. Do we potentially flex, on,
We can do that is dependent upon the season, I guess. I don't know. What do you?
I mean, for the last 18 months, only 32 calls for service during the 2300 hour and beyond.
Trees down mainly. Trees down mainly.
No, that was at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, it was at 3:30, yeah. I wasn't awake.
It was.
she already boogied?
The car's out there. She might be in the
You
bathroom.
must be in the bathroom.
I guess I,
Although it really dropped it.
Uh-oh.
Question for you.
Yeah. I'll try to
Go
answer.
ahead.
we're talking about the potential for switching out the hours for coverage out here and stuff. Did you see that from Jen?
No.
7 to 3 and 3 to 11.
Okay.
Reason being is that there wasn't much happening after 11 PM.
Call
So 1
volume
a.m.
really dropped at the 1900 hours until 0700.
I can see that. I mean, without like sitting and looking through stuff, I can only speak on like my opinion, not obviously like totally fact-based or stat-based. But I mean, third shift in general, I'd say is a little slower. There's generally less calls countywide. But when there are calls, they typically tend to be a little bigger. I'd say I can't really see the harm. Typically, the end of my shift is when I'm nights. I like to be out. My philosophy is to try and be out when people can see me. So I take advantage of every bit of daylight I have and try to make sure I'm in all my communities that I'm seeing doing traffic. And obviously, like, I still do stuff later when it gets dark, but then things slow down a little bit and it gives me more time to do my paperwork at that point because there are less calls. So I don't see the harm necessarily. As far as traffic goes, the nice part about starting at 3 on second shift would be, I feel like when I'm working afternoons, first or seconds, depending, I tend to have more traffic at like 3P to 6-ish, especially weekdays. Weekends are gonna be hit or miss, depending what's going on, but weekdays, because of like work schedules, that's when it's gonna matter most with the traffic. So starting at 3 might be more beneficial than starting at 5, because sometimes I get in at 5. By the time I get my squad loaded, get checked on, check my emails, or deal with like a phone call that's holding or something, I don't even get out there to sit until 5:30 or 6. And sometimes I'm already like past the busier time. But once in a while when it gets busy later at night, is it nice to be around till 1 if things might be coming through here? Yeah. Or sometimes we get juvenile calls, which to be honest, I haven't had them in a while. I know they're still out there running around, but I haven't had any complaints. Well, I have actually, Kennedy, but,
Is there any difference like on Mondays because businesses are closed or Saturdays are busier because people are out and about or?
there's no like hard and fast rule, but I'd say like Friday, Saturday nights, you know, most times tend to be busier because there are more people out and about. But like weekdays are the more predictable busy because of traffic patterns. So traffic wise, weekdays, weekends busier on other calls. You know, there's more people out and about on weekends, so you're probably gonna have more contacts or more problems you're gonna have to deal with. But you can have some crazy Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays too. So.
And we could always do at nights what
No,
I do at start of school year, having her come in earlier to get school buses and cars are passing the school buses.
The earlier time would be nice for the school buses, I'll say that.
Yeah. I mean, that's always available to us. Either pay overtime or have them shift their hours. I just thought some of that data was very interesting that
we roll the sidewalks up and.
What's Jen's current hours right now?
She should be 9 to 5.
9 to 5 and 5 to 1.
5 to 1, yeah. Well, it's not like it's gonna be cast in stone forever. If somebody wants to make it,
And if you don't want to make the decision tonight, we can, and you want to think about it, we can do it next time.
Well, is that what she thinks, she reckons we do?
She thought from looking at the statistics that she was able to get from the guy at the county, that would probably make sense.
Let's do it. I'll make that motion.
Second. Motion by Fonger, second by Play, that we change the hours to 7 to 3, 3 to 11, as soon as I can get Triggs to do it. Is that?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yep. Okay. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Next item is consider approval of the 2023-24 Class B liquor license for Warm Belly Noble LLC, doing business as Warm Belly Farm at 4311 Vilas Hope Road.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Fonger, second by Williams to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Do we have anybody here from the soccer club?
Present.
Oh. Can we move down and do the soccer club? Sure. Consider the MG Soccer Club's request for use of the town fields for the fall 2023 and the spring 2024 season, and to hold their monthly meetings at the town hall rent free. Are you Marissa?
I am, yes. My name is Marissa Anders. I am the incoming president of the Monona Grove Soccer Club. First and foremost, we would like to request permission to use the fields that we have previously used for the town, which mainly are American Heritage Park, Ravenwood Park, and the Town Hall field. American Heritage and Ravenwood are utilized for practices for teams. Town Hall is utilized for games only at this juncture. And then we would like the ability to utilize Bass Park as well for practices, not for games at this point. I know Bass Park
What did you say for practices after?
For American Heritage and Ravenwood Park for practice, and then Town Hall Field utilized for games as it has been previously.
And Bass as a fallback for practice?
It would be for a different team. Our U12 boys need a bigger field to practice on, and that was recommended by some of the coaches that live in the area. I know that has been a point of contention previously as that park goes.
The parking's been much better with
Great.
them.
There are other inlets is what I'm being
Yeah.
heard with the new
Use
development. so.
Warren cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
We haven't heard specifically from coaches as far as what times and days they're requesting for practices, and we don't have our game schedule. When we have those things formalized, I'm happy to come back to another meeting to give you those formalities. And then I know that within the club, we're looking to expand and build on what we have. So there might be opportunities for camps, and we can bring those to the board as those come up, as well as utilization of the fields for over summer that is not necessarily affiliated with fall or spring season, but none of those have been formally made yet, and I'm happy to come back to another meeting. But just kind of an initial ask that we have permission to use the fields, and then we can come back with our more formal.
Currently using these fields.
Currently everything but Bass Park, yes.
And when would you use the town hall for meetings?
So it's flexible. Right now, our board meetings are set as the third Wednesday of each month. So technically Wednesday would be our meeting. It sounds like based on our current board that a virtual meeting is going to work better for this month. So it would be intermittent. And of course, we would work around whatever meetings are already held here. And like I said, we can be flexible, but it sounds like in talking to Kim, that day specifically is usually not utilized by the board or any other meetings.
Yeah, I think the third is usually open, isn't it?
And I'll be in communication with Kim from month to month as whether or not we would be using the space. So if any other meetings or groups needed the space, they would be allowed to use it, obviously, if we were not.
Okay.
Have there been any issues ever raised as far as funding? Okay. And I would move approval.
Second. Motion by Williams, second by DePlay to approve the use of the 4 parks and of the town hall with no
Rent
fee.
free.
Any discussion on that motion?
I was going through these minutes that we were forwarded, and I saw that I was recommended to be on a committee. I've never been contacted to be on such a committee.
They had second thoughts, obviously.
I just wanted to be sure.
Was that back when we had a joint recreation?
Yeah, it's at,
Yeah, that was
March 3rd, 2014.
Yeah, because I think I was on it too.
Yeah, I just was kind of curious why I've never been called to such a committee.
I can't answer that. This is my first rodeo with the club myself. So a lot of our predecessors.
Oh, is that one?
Joint recreation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, doesn't as well. All right.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion. One abstention. Why?
Gee, why?
Oh, you guys might be related.
I mean, I'm all in favor of the soccer program, believe me.
Thank you all very much.
Consider adoption of ordinance 2023-07-17A, adopting revisions to section 8.03 of the town code of ordinances, road right of ways. Question, I thought at one time I saw that we're giving them 30 days for full restoration, right? After they're finished, or is that struck in page 2? It was 3, but maybe it's all struck. It's yellow.
No, it's in there. Yellow is in.
Okay.
That was the language that. Bill
They
had
shall pay
before
the
last
invoice within
meeting.
30 days.
Yeah, they're paying the invoice.
That's just if they end up getting billed for it.
If we do it.
They got 30 days to pay it.
Once that the land has been disturbed and it's still unrestored, we were giving them until they're done with the project.
They have to let me know when they complete the work.
Complete like running the cable or whatever.
So then that starts the clock on restoration.
So on large projects like we had this year, should we be breaking them
I got
up
to do it in
into
stages, and
more stages? That's what you would recommend
that's what
doing?
I would recommend, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think is there something in here about how long they have to restore it? Is
No,
No.
no, set that. Based
that
on,
what you were talking about?
Yeah, because of when they do it in the winter time.
yeah.
That's for clarification and stuff, what they would have been charged, because it was part of the table in our subdivision. And would they have been, what would they have been charged for just our property? Would it be the 55 or the 45? And
Just your property?
yeah, I mean, it was just part of the whole thing. They would have played X
So
amount.
you have a pedestal in your yard, right? And then there would have been a boring, like,
They did the whole front of our
yeah, I mean, whether or not they knifed it or they bored it, yeah, that's, I mean,
Trenching or boring
yard. So
yeah, it would be,
45.
it'd be plowing or boring.
or
They don't really open trench much anymore, but,
they open trenched,
well, they use it,
two ends.
yeah, they use an excavator, then they went through with the boring machine. That's called boring. Open trench is when they had, would have started at one end of your property and dug a hole,
They
the
did that.
whole length of it. Well,
They did.
they,
It was
okay.
all torn up, literally.
Okay.
And they cleaned up part of it. But my husband spent more than $45 finishing up what they didn't do. And that's why I'm concerned that these figures are not.
That's not, yeah. That's not your, $45 is not your restoration cost on here. You're looking at this.
Yeah, I'm looking at
That's
this.
just our fee for putting that in our right of way.
So what is the restoration cost?
We have to figure that out.
They have to do it.
I have to,
And if we have to do it, then we.
I have to figure that out on every permit now.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they have to give us either a certified check.
Yeah, your restoration cost for your property probably would have been like 200 and some dollars, you know. You think if you figure it out, you know. Yeah, this is just, that's just for what they performed, for them to perform that operation in your yard, that's what it costs them.
Got it. Okay.
Did you want, do we, or should we have something in here that says how long they have to restore it, or is that a case by case thing?
I would think we'd make that by permit, right? Because depending on the job, I mean, if it's a small like gas hookup for a house, you're not gonna give them 30 days, you're gonna give them 5, you know?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's not really anything in here that says.
Of running gas to a house, they don't usually do that until the house is built, right? I mean,
Yeah, new
It's a-
construction, right?
yeah.
Yeah, they get a right of way permit for that
Yeah.
to run gas to the house. Well, and that's an open trench. They completely open trench it usually. So, yeah, there's usually a pretty good restoration. Them guys usually restore it like right away when they do that kind of stuff.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's all loose gravel and, you know, unplowed or,
It's just dirt,
yeah,
yeah.
just dirt.
That's
Does
just,
this give you the authority to do what you need to do?
Better it does, yeah.
Well, is it not as good as it should be then, or?
No, it's good. Because basically what I'm doing, I have to go through, right? And I have to figure out what it's gonna cost them to restore it.
So you're
So then
happy
if
with
it ever happens,
what's in there?
if this ever happens again, then we'll go out and start restoring it and we'll charge them,
Okay.
whatever, you know? I mean, we have a little more grounds to
get your money, get paid for
get
it.
paid for it, yeah.
Good.
Because we had nothing before. I mean, we couldn't even,
And on your form, they have a start date and a
yeah,
anticipated,
yeah, the whole form's on here, but yeah.
is it there?
Yeah, it's on that front page.
Yeah.
You will need, in the permit then, when you issue it, you know, it'll be issued conditioned upon them restoring the property within blank days.
Right, and that is,
After completion, yeah.
Yeah.
Once I figure out what it'd take to restore it, then we kind of know what to give them.
Just sort of fill in that blank.
Because they actually could fill it out themselves before, but I think that's in our section now.
yeah.
Okay.
So you need a motion or what?
Yes,
What are we doing?
please.
Oh, wait a minute, I don't know. We had a blip here that looked like somebody wanted to speak, but it disappeared. Alicia Roush, did you want to speak on this?
Can everyone hear me okay?
Your mic is showing on, but we're not hearing you. Now we do.
Oh, does it work now?
Yep.
Oh, I wanted to speak like 10 minutes ago. And you've already made a motion on it. I have my hand raised up in the corner there. So I don't know if I can speak on something you've already made a motion on, or if I should just wait to the next board meeting.
The motion on what?
What was the item?
The police hours.
The what?
Police hours.
Hours?
Speak to us now.
Pardon?
Speak to us now.
Speak to you now. Okay. Alicia Roush on 4552 Violet Road. I just wanted to say, I just asked the board in terms of police hours to not lock yourself into set hours, because if memory serves, at the time of the inception of the contract, the hours were to be reviewed on a more regular basis. So when you have festivals, when you have bike races, when you have those sort of things going on, you would expect the deputies to accommodate those things, correct? And not
Yes.
take off. Right? And
Yep.
the biggest thing, again, when you look at stats, I am a number person. I love numbers because that's what drives police. That's what we do. That's why we have case numbers. So in terms of the vacation checks, those are done at the leisure of the deputy. They're not done on like 9 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They're done when they have time. And so I would just caution 7 to 3 is more fitting with this particular community in terms of your bus passing complaints, your traffic, and that sort of thing. But I would just ask that there be some flexibility in that you all, as the town board, have some say in the activities, I guess, of the township. So if you have a fireman's festival, you don't have, no one working in the township. I don't think that that's particularly helpful, So that was my only thing, was just not to lock yourselves in like that have a big asterisk that just says, pending, the township should come first, and that's what I'm just saying, is that I see this sort of being chiseled away, and I look at the numbers, and the needs of the community has to come first. So that's all I'm saying, is just, that's fine to go 7 to 3. Keep in mind, you're going to miss all the buses at that point. So the flexibility should be there. If you're getting a lot of complaints, rather than paying overtime, there should be some flexibility of working a 6A to 2P versus 7 to 3. And these statistics can be pulled by any of your deputies that are working there. As a previous employee of the sheriff's office, there's a software tool, and these numbers can be pulled at any time that you need them. I would have to do that. I was a contract deputy for the village of Black Earth. I would have to do that all the time. So I'm just trying to get a little bit, transparency here and what we're paying for in terms of 3 deputies working out here, and in terms of the call volume. I mean, vacation checks are vacation checks. I mean, we all have Ring cameras now, and I hope that's not the bulk of what's going on out here.
The town board, being the town chairman, I've always had the ability to change their hours if I've had complaints already on cars passing the buses in the morning or at night, that I can change their hours as long as I let Triggs know.
Sure, understood. That's all. I just wanted to sort of get
Doing it for a couple days or for a week, but if it's permanent, then I bring that to the town board.
Right, because I think it was you, Chris, that said at a previous meeting, signs are one thing, but it has to be coupled with enforcement, right? And that's one way to do it. And living on a busy road, I've had to, we've had some, my daughter's driving, so I don't have to worry, I have to worry about other things now, but of her sort of crossing Violet Road, and we've had more than one occasion where they just blazed on through. And I just think that that's probably the bulk of what you're going to get, especially like that first day of school, to have that presence. So if someone's coming on at 7, they're missing, because those buses are they're moving at like probably 6:15 to get into the township at that point. My daughter used to get picked up at 7:06.
6:30.
Okay.
Bus barn.
That's all,
Thank you.
that's all I wanted. Thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Back to road right of way permits. Did we have a motion and a second?
Yes, I believe we did.
I think I did.
Kim?
No, I didn't have a motion or a second. Sorry.
I thought I made the motion, yeah.
Motion by Conger then, second by Williams to approve the changes to the road right of way permits at 8.03. Ordinance 2023-7
It should be 17.
17A. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Discuss and consider ordinance 2023-707-17B, revisions, chapter 11, public nuisances.
So this hits two different ways to enforce weeds, basically. It adds to the definition of noxious weeds, the grass over 6 inches in a residential area. And it also changes the enforcement when it's through the maintenance of the land portion of the property maintenance ordinance. So the weed inspector or the building inspector really could enforce weeds depending on what the situation might be.
And we don't have a grass cop like the city of Monona does.
No, this is all to be, like I said earlier, it's usually these properties that are uninhabited and owned by some bank somewhere or something, and you can't get a hold of them. And this would be, if we gave them a notice and we didn't hear from them in 10 days, we could do something about it.
It's kind of like the house on BB at Vilas.
Yeah, you can just mow it and then put it on the cost on the actual.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done that before.
So they have just itemized a few noxious weeds, but there are many more than this, so. it
Well,
just
and
says-
those are set forth in the statute. So the reason we did this here was just to add, long grass is not a noxious weed under the statute. So we included, if you notice above there, the 660407, that's the state noxious weed statute that has a laundry list of laws. We're including within that then grass exceeding 6 inches. So yeah, they'll still have to have, creeping Jenny and Canadian thistle and all that other stuff.
This is driving me crazy this year.
Well, right now I'm more worried about wild parsley.
Cook it. Cook it.
How do you get rid of the thistle?
I spray them.
I'll move approval of ordinance 2023-07-17B. Noxious weeds.
Motion by Duplay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Anders to motion to approve the revisions to ordinance 2023-7-17B to chapter 11, noxious weeds. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. I guess I gotta go back to consider action concerning proposed development by RG Houston Company Incorporated. Do we really need to do anything?
We don't know. I asked him to put that on the agenda just in case you did get significant public input that the town board would want to factor into its decision. But I didn't think there was anything of substance added tonight. So
What about,
Paul Davis?
yeah, Paul Davis, is there any direction that needs to be added?
I think we could follow up with Paul Davis and Mr. Swalheim after the meeting.
And that was good. I thought that was good.
Yeah, I mean, it could add a little bit of increment to the TID without much expense.
I think the bottom line is that if he can match somewhat the timing of Houston's, we'll just add his property into TIF 1. If he's going to be delayed, we'll group him in with what eventually would be TIF District 2.
He's in more of a hurry than we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
He gave me his card and I'll reach out to him and learn more and report back.
But that's just a timing thing that he's in control of. Hey, staff has the direction we need from the prior board action.
Okay, so then, Bill, you will be continuing to work with the Houstons to get that developers agreement all fleshed out and.
Yep.
And once it's done, it'll come back here for us either.
Yep, that's right, Steve. Yep.
And
They have
Village doing Amazon tonight?
No.
You're doing what?
Amazon's developers agreement tonight?
Yeah.
Village? It's on our agenda.
Top secret?
Public, oh, must have it done. Something that they are willing to sign. Public Works Department, road right of way permits.
We just had Charter guy, Kirk sent us another, I gotta look that over, but nothing to approve right now.
Thanks, Mark.
Road right of way permits. As you probably all know, road work's been getting done. Chip sealing is all done. It looked really good this year. Now everybody's just complaining about all the rock on the road. Of course. But Payne and Dolan's been working like crazy. They got Vilas Hope and Yankee done today.
When are they gonna do the front of your building?
Right, next week.
Next week?
Yeah, we gotta let it dry up a little more. And
You
then,
gotta get concrete yet.
yeah, that'll get done probably tomorrow or the next day. Nora Road will be done tomorrow. And then
Saw they had half.
Kennedy.
Done.
Yeah, Vilas Hope is all done now.
Is it?
Yep, and Yankee. Kennedy, Whiting, and Ridge Road stuff is done. So all they got left is Nora and the parking lot. And then Farner's got to come back and do this part of the parking lot, but they're gonna wait until the blacktop is done next door. So then that looks real nice. Be all black at the same time. We can do all the lines and stuff at the same time.
Straight lines?
Yeah, straight lines.
Chip seal this?
It's getting, it's like a, what do they call it, scrub seal or whatever. Yeah, it's not gonna be rock on top. It's gonna have grit in it.
Oh, yeah.
Just so then you don't track all the rock inside. So, and then one other thing, we were talking about the speed signs earlier. I've been talking with the deputies and our small one that we got from that grant or whatever.
Yeah, the first one.
We only have one battery for that.
Yeah.
And we would like to get a second one. So I had the gentleman, Bowen, who is the territory manager for him, sent me a price. And that's $634.15 for one sign.
How much life?
Or for one battery, I should say.
How much?
So right now, when the battery's dead, we take it out and we charge it. So that sign sits there empty without a battery for 24 or 48 hours. And then we had to put it back in. So it's nice. The other ones that we bought, actually, we got 2 sets of batteries.
$600?
Yeah, $634.15.
Yeah, 500 in police supplies.
So I was just bringing it in front of you to see if there was an option of getting one. Otherwise, I mean, we'll just keep doing what we're doing.
I'd like to see us get one.
It is nice.
In service longer.
It is nice because then, like the other ones, I go out and I just swap them out and they're back up and running.
Anything else we can find the money?
Yeah, here, per diems to Mike Duplay, we could cut the other 100.
I think that's a good spot. I make that motion. No.
No.
Town hall supplies, we have $304 left. We spent $140 through the first half.
That's all.
That's just paper towels and stuff.
Yeah.
Could you take the other 100 out of that and use the 500 from police?
Well, do you want to just put it to whatever category it really should be to and then figure out at the end of the year do a budget amendment of some kind, rather than putting it to categories?
I'll make the suggest that we put it
Isn't
to town board.
Well, no, I don't know. What did we,
Police.
what did we buy the other signs under?
I would think it's all under police, isn't it?
Could be something.
I didn't see it under police.
Well, it was under the highway, there's two signs that we bought under the highway outlay or whatever.
Yeah, those were under
Capital
capital
outlay.
outlay. That's right. That was highway department.
So. I don't know, do we have a little room there yet this year?
I move that we,
Money in the budget left,
No,
right?
there's not a capital item, so.
buy the replacement battery that Dan needs for the second sign, or second battery for the sign, and that we reconcile the final fund.
I'll figure out where it can go.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
figure
why it's not on the agenda.
I'll figure out where it should go for next time.
We'll buy it and then you approve it.
All right, sounds good.
Anything else?
No, that's all I had.
Board reports and communications.
Clerk treasurer.
Clerk's report. Clerk treasurer, office
Do you really have
update.
anything? We don't really have anything. All's good.
Smooth sailing, right?
Yeah, it has been.
I think I'm good. We don't have any committee reports.
Nope.
Anyone want to make a motion on 7? Consider adopt motion to move into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, parent 1, parent C, for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Deputy Kennedy interview results. Motion by Williams. Second by DeClay. Roll call. Fonger.
Aye.
Anders. Hampton. Aye. Williams.
Aye.
DeClay.
Aye.
We're going into closed session.
Recording.
You need me for this, Chris, or?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, it's back recording. Okay.
Doing it on its own thing.
Is there a motion
I'll make a
for
motion.
the action that?
We take the, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
The first two on the list.
Second. That would be Sean and Eric, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Motion by Fonger, second by DeClay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We adjourn.
Second.
Motion by DeClay, second by Williams. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. So Kim, will you send that to Triggs and ask him to reply as to when can they start and when can we change